By definition, culture is considered to be the customs, arts, social institutions, and achievements of a particular nation, people, or social group. To put it simply, culture is the food we eat, the way we greet our friends, the clothes we wear, how we speak, or what our ancestors have done in the past.
Hello everyone, my name is Dusan. I come from Serbia, the Republic of Serbia to be precise, and I am an exchange student, meaning that I came here for a year to come and study in the United States in a high school, and in May I'm departing back. So I came here in August and I'm leaving in May, so that would almost make a year, around 9 months of my stay. So a little bit about Serbia. The location of Serbia is in southeast.
But to what extent does the culture we belong to influence our behavior or the way we interact with others? To answer this question, I have decided to present my country and its culture to a high school class.
Which leads me to one of the main points of this actual presentation is that, these two schools that I'm attending back home and here are obviously completely different. And the differences in them, to some may be quite, propelling at first, not necessarily, you wouldn't necessarily go out of your way to go to high school that's completely different, where you can't choose electives like in Serbia. It was kind of a heaven when I came here and realized, oh, I can, take electives and the classes that I actually would like, But that difference actually made me realize something bigger. So,
after presenting, I interviewed some of the students that listened to my presentation. What does being American mean to you?
Being American means having freedom, even if it's at the cost of others' lives, I guess. Because we have many people who serve in the military,
can go to school every day and have a meal and a house to live in.
Specific, unless you look like this or do this, you're American. It's very loose.
Doing your best to help out your community any way you can and actively participating in politics, not necessarily keeping up with everything that's happening, but being aware of what's the generalistics of what's happening around your country.
Being American means being very privileged. I think there are a lot of Americans who take a lot of the things that we have as kind of the default, when in reality, a lot of other people don't have the same luxuries that we do. But also at the same time, there's a level of ignorance to assume that because we're America, that we're the best at everything, because not every other country is a third world country. A lot of other countries are very comparable to the US too. So I'm very proud to be American, but I think there's a lot that comes with it, with just being very conscious of your identity and how your identity affects or compares to other people.
And where are you originally from?
I was born in Ohio, but my parents are from India.
On my mom's side, her father was Polish. And then on my dad's side, his dad's mother or grandmother, I can't remember exactly which one, is Italian.
So a lot of my family, on my dad's side, I don't know how many grandparents were German Jews, and they came over to the United States right before the Holocaust, thankfully, otherwise I wouldn't be here today. And then on my mom's side, it's primarily Irish immigrants.
You've mentioned that your parents or your family at one point came from Ireland, and it's a known fact that America was a melting pot and is a melting pot right now. So, would you say that mesh of all these cultures and practices and religions, would you say that's a good or a bad thing?
I definitely think the meshing is really good for, in general, everybody, because it gives different people different perspectives.
So would you say that culture divides or brings people together?
I think understanding and recognition of culture brings people together. Culture should never be a dividing factor. Unfortunately, it is, because people don't want to take the time and understand that somebody is different than them and accept that somebody is different than them. But also thinking that saying everybody is equal or everybody is the same is ignorant, and it's not fair it doesn't pay attention to the differences that are between us as people.
So, how would you describe or how would you justify the violence and discrimination that comes from cultural bias?
I don't think there's a defense for that. I think a lot of that comes from a place of fear, as when we don't understand why or how people are different from us. In order to try to protect ourselves, we can lash out in the form of discrimination and oppression, which isn't a defense for it in any way. But I think that just comes from the human instinct of protectiveness and fear of the unknown.
Later, I pair them up with my friends back home to talk about their cultures, differences, or any stereotypes they might believe about America or Serbia.
So, hi Josie. Hi. I'm gonna introduce you to a friend of mine. She's Serbian, and I'll ask you a couple questions. You and her will talk and just exchange your views and stuff like that. So, Maria, introduce yourself.
Hi, so I'm Maria or Maria, and
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm pronouncing it right.
Okay, so hi Trivion, my name is Mia. I am a junior in high school, that's like second to last year, and I'd like to work with either art or multiple languages, and I am actively learning 7 languages at the moment.
7? Wow.
I'm 16 years old. I'm a junior with Dushan. I'm not a very interesting person, but I want to go into electrical engineering.
Well, I guess if I had to like pick a hobby in a sense, I guess it would be like playing video games. I do that pretty much all day. I also really like multimedia, and so like I'm currently at a kind of, there's a youth organization working with multimedia, so I guess you could call that one of my hobbies as well. I like multimedia, video and photo editing mostly. I mean, mostly that's basically multimedia. Well, yeah, I'm not an interesting person.
No, that's really neat. Is that what you want to study next year?
No, I'm gonna study management next year.
but basically, like Serbian culture for me is really rich and historically rich, and it's full with some great stories, some not so great, but some really great stories.
I think it's pretty cool being American, but the first thing that comes to my mind when I think like America or American is hard working. Not saying that any other country isn't hard working, but there are a lot of people in America that are very hard working. They come from, some are naturally born in America, some come from different countries and all that, and they naturally tend to work hard for what they want, or like their American dream, as most people would say.
So I think the thing about America is that it's so big. It's not like Serbia, where like you can define like all Serbian citizens in one way. The thing about America is that everything is so big here. So even if I try to narrow it down to Ohio or even Columbus, I still can't figure out a way to define everybody, because some people, I like to consider myself to be a very welcoming person to other cultures. I love learning about other cultures. Some people aren't like that. Some people here are a lot more conservative, and they're not very welcome to other cultures.
Yeah, I think America's weird because we're like a melting pot of lots of different cultures. I know that's so like textbook, but I don't think there's one like defined American culture. I feel like Christianity affects everybody in the US, even if they're not Christian, just because it's such a big presence. Like I personally like don't celebrate Christmas, but I find myself doing traditions with my friends just because that's what I'm constantly surrounded by, and that's like not a negative thing at all. That's just, I feel like Christmas here sometimes is less of a religious holiday and more of just like a cultural thing that we do.
So, would you say, Mia, that you have, as a Serbian person, any like stereotypes regarding the American culture and the American people, or what comes to mind when somebody asks you, what do you think of America or Americans?
Well, to be honest, I don't really have any stereotypes in my head because I know that I hate when people stereotype Serbians for like being fat or lazy or just drinking alcohol and moonshine all day. So I kind of don't want to say that I have stereotype towards Americans because every part of a country, every country has its own customs, and in a way, all of the stereotypes are basically the same for every country, just one stereotype is more prominent than the other.
Like, when you think about it, we were like, ooh, America's like white and fat people with guns, but then when I came there, it was like, I went to school which was like super mixed, and then everyone was really cool. None of them had guns.
Most Serbs, not me again, think that Americans are like very dumb and would take their time like bashing the American school system of how they don't learn enough, which in my opinion is like completely false because I think that in Serbia we learn more than we should.
What would you say makes a stereotype stay alive? Like what makes people believe stereotypes per se?
Are you asking me?
Both of you.
I'd say it's accuracy. Because some of the stereotypes you're saying, I mean, the fat white people with guns, there are a lot of fat white people with guns in America.
It's because those people haven't really experienced it for themselves, or they don't really know for themselves, so they just assume or go off of what other people say.
So stereotypes stay for those people who are uneducated and don't want to step out of their comfort zone. For example, if someone has a stereotype, I don't know, about like short people or like people of color or some religion, if they don't actually meet them or those stereotypes stop them to meet them, that's why the stereotype's alive.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. I think that like ignorance is always caused by just being afraid of something and being afraid of finding out like the truth. So you just, I mean, it's a common thing for people to just want to know everything, and so when something is like foreign to you, you automatically like stereotype it just so that you can like feel as if you're safe and you know what's
Finally, I asked them how cultural tension and ignorance should be eliminated and worldliness propagated.
I think the best way to like battle stereotypes is with programs that like allow foreign exchange students. I think those are the best programs because like Scioto has had like a lot of foreign exchange students come through, and like last year like I met like 3 German kids. I've never met a kid from Germany before. There's like I have classes with this kid from Russia. I've never met someone from Russia before. And then I met Dushan. I honestly forgot that Serbia was a country before Dushan came here. So I think that just actually like putting a good face to a country is like a genuine face, not a stereotype, is the best way to kind of defeat those. Kind of like how you said, like you had all these stereotypes of American people, but like right when you got here, they all just kind of diminished because you met real American people, not like images.
Let them learn something other than their own culture. For example, like we in our schools have history of the entire world, like the entire world.
So, because it's getting kind of chilly here, do you have anything else to say to each other before we finish this interview?
It was nice talking to you, and I'm glad we kind of agreed on basically everything and had kind of the same views, and I think that it shows that, I mean, even though the ignorance is present, it's not as widespread as people would think.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I don't know if I represent the majority of America right now, but I think I definitely have a very progressive mindset, and I just try to be as open like to other people as possible because I think it'd be completely ignorant to assume that I'm right about everything. And it was nice talking to you too. It's nice to talk to people who aren't from Columbus, Ohio once in a while.
It's nice to meet you and talk to you.
Well, thanks. It was nice meeting you, and talking to you don't get a chance to talk to a person from a whole other continent every day.
Right.
I hope you have a great year and I hope you're having fun in high school.
I'm doing
Because
my
college
best. I
is
hope
gonna
you're
kill
having
you.
fun in college.
All in all, it was really nice talking to you. And yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Culture is a part of us, but only with mutual understanding and tenderness can it live in its entirety and beauty. It should not divide, but rather connect.
Which leads me into talking about culture in a way that we don't really talk about a lot. Yes, we know you guys wear a certain dress for prom in America, and we wear a different type of dress back home. And it's the obvious, iceberg, the tip of the iceberg, really, when it comes to culture. You realize that people, are very different in what they dress, what they eat, what religion they practice. But it's never to the point where you understand that the way somebody makes eye contact or the way somebody talks with you or touches you or hugs you, is an indicator of their culture and how they interact with other people.
In this modern and mobile society, we should encourage and appreciate the cultural diversity more than ever before, as we have been given the tools to do so. Culture does not make people. People make culture.